Hey everyone, ready for today's deep dive? We're talking all things BCAAs. I know you've probably seen those big tubs of BCAA powder at the gym and thought, what's the deal with those?
Right.
Are they just hype or is there some real science behind them? Well, today we're going to separate fact from fiction and get to the bottom of what BCAAs actually do. And
Absolutely.
don't worry, this isn't just for the hardcore gym rats out there. We're going to break down why BCAAs matter for anyone looking to be healthier.
I think a lot of people will be surprised to find out how many different ways BCAAs can impact our bodies.
Totally. So let's start with the basics. We know BCAAs are essential amino acids, which
Mhm.
means our bodies can't make them on their own, right?
That's right.
But the source we're looking at today mentions that there are actually 9 essential amino acids.
hmm
So what makes these three, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, so special?
That's a great question. All 9 of those essential amino acids are important. They're all crucial for building and repairing tissues. But the BCAAs, particularly leucine, they have a more direct impact on muscle protein synthesis.
Muscle protein synthesis, that sounds pretty important.
It is. It's basically the process of building new muscle.
Gotcha. So like leucine is the key that unlocks muscle growth.
Exactly. It's a great analogy. It's not just about having all the building blocks, but having the right one to kickstart the process.
Okay, that makes sense. So the source mentions that BCAAs can even boost muscle growth, but I'm guessing it's not as simple as like just chugging a BCAA drink and suddenly getting ripped.
You're right to be skeptical. While leucine is definitely powerful, it needs those other essential amino acids to really maximize muscle building.
Oh, okay.
In fact, the source actually highlights a few studies where whey protein, which has a complete amino acid profile, actually outperformed BCAAs alone when it came to stimulating muscle growth.
So it's kind of like BCAAs are a crucial ingredient in the recipe, but you need the whole dish for a truly satisfying result.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about soreness? I know I'm always feeling it after a good workout. Does the science really back up the claims that BCAAs can help with that post-workout soreness?
It does, and this is where the research gets really interesting because the mechanisms are still being explored.
Oh, really? So we don't know everything about how it works.
Not 100% no. But the source presents 2 main theories about why our muscles get sore after exercise.
Okay, let's hear them.
One theory is that we get tiny, microscopic tears in the muscle fibers themselves, and the other theory is that the soreness comes from issues with the connective tissues.
Connective tissues.
Yeah, like the tendons and fascia that surround the muscles.
Wow, so even scientists aren't totally sure why we get sore? Science is wild. But even if we don't know exactly why it happens, the bigger question is, can BCAAs actually help?
They can. The source mentions a bunch of studies that found taking BCAAs before a workout actually led to significantly less muscle soreness and even reduced the markers of muscle damage in the blood.
Wait, really? So they can actually protect your muscles?
It seems that way.
Yeah.
One study found that people who took BCAAs before an intense leg workout, they experienced 30% less soreness 2 days later compared to those who didn't.
Whoa, 30%. That's huge. That's like a game changer for anyone who wants to get back to their workouts faster. So is it like the BCAAs are giving your muscles little shields to protect them during intense exercise?
Huh. I like that. And it's not just about reducing soreness. The source also points to some research that suggests BCAAs might actually help fight fatigue during your workouts, too.
Wait, hold up. So less soreness and more stamina. Now I'm really starting to see why athletes and fitness folks love BCAAs. But hold on, this source also mentioned something about BCAAs potentially benefiting the liver. That was a bit of a surprise for me.
Right.
I thought these were all about muscles.
It's true that BCAAs are definitely known for their role in muscle metabolism, but they seem to do a lot more in our bodies than we initially thought.
Okay, interesting. So tell me more about this liver connection.
Well, the source specifically highlights a condition called hepatic encephalopathy, which can affect people with cirrhosis of the liver.
Cirrhosis. That sounds pretty serious.
It is.
Can you explain what's happening in the liver when someone has cirrhosis?
Sure. Imagine a sink drain that's totally clogged with hair and gunk. That's kind of what happens in cirrhosis. Scar tissue builds up in the liver, and it prevents the liver from doing its job, which is filtering toxins from the blood.
Ooh, yuck. So the liver's like a filter, and when it gets clogged, things get messy.
Exactly. And when the liver can't function properly, it can lead to a whole bunch of health problems,
Mhm.
including hepatic encephalopathy, which actually affects brain function.
Whoa, so this liver problem can mess with your brain.
It can, yeah.
Okay, so how do BCAAs fit into all of this? Are they like a plumber for the liver?
Not quite a plumber, but they might offer some serious support. See, the source explains that in hepatic encephalopathy, the buildup of toxins in the blood can actually lead to a decrease in BCAAs, which further complicates the problem.
Oh, wow. So it's like a vicious cycle.
It can be, yeah. So researchers are looking into whether supplementing with BCAAs can help improve symptoms and overall quality of life for people with this condition.
So it's kind of like providing the body with extra tools to help manage the situation. Man, this is getting way more interesting than I expected. Okay, before we get too deep into the science, let's talk about how to actually get these BCAAs. Are we talking supplements or food? What's the best way to make sure we're getting enough?
That's a great question, and it's one that the source addresses directly. While BCAA supplements are definitely available, the source really emphasizes that getting BCAAs from whole food sources is the ideal way to go.
Okay, so what kind of foods are we talking about here?
Think about things like steak, chicken, salmon, Greek yogurt, eggs, the list goes on. Lots of delicious protein-rich foods.
Wait, so all this time I've been unknowingly consuming BCAAs while enjoying my favorite foods? My mind is blown. Okay, but before I read the fridge, let's dive into the science of how these amino acids actually work their magic in the body.
It really is amazing how these tiny little molecules, these BCAAs, can have such a big impact on our bodies. And the source we're looking at does a really good job of breaking down like the whole journey of BCAAs, from when they enter our system to what they actually do.
Yeah, I was checking out those diagrams in the source, and it's a pretty intricate process.
It is.
I remember from like way back in biology class that amino acids are the building blocks of protein. But how do BCAAs specifically contribute to like all those benefits we were just talking about?
Well, unlike most amino acids, which are broken down in the liver, BCAAs are unique. They're mainly metabolized directly in the muscles.
Oh, interesting. So they kind of bypass the liver and head straight for the muscles.
Exactly.
That makes sense, considering how much they're involved in muscle growth and repair.
Right. And this direct access to the muscles means that BCAAs can play a much more immediate role in things like muscle protein synthesis and energy production.
Speaking of energy production, the source mentions something about BCAAs potentially helping to reduce fatigue during exercise. Can you tell me more about that? Is it like some kind of secret energy boost?
It's not exactly a secret, but it's definitely a cool mechanism. So when we exercise, our muscles use BCAAs for fuel, right?
Right.
But as those BCAA levels start to decline in the blood, it can trigger an increase in a brain chemical called serotonin.
Serotonin. Wait, isn't that like the feel-good chemical?
It is. In a lot of situations, serotonin is a good thing. But when it comes to exercise, having higher levels of serotonin is actually linked to feelings of fatigue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it can actually make you feel less motivated to keep pushing.
So it's like our brain is trying to tell us, okay, you've done enough, time to rest.
Exactly. And by supplementing with BCAAs, you might be able to maintain those BCAA levels during your workout. And that means you can prevent that big surge in serotonin and delay the feeling of fatigue.
So it's like giving your muscles a constant supply of fuel so they can keep going strong.
That's a great way to put it.
I'm starting to see why so many athletes and fitness enthusiasts swear by BCAAs. But it's important to remember that we should always be a little skeptical of supplements, right? Like, the research is promising, but it's still an evolving field.
You're absolutely right. Supplements should never be a substitute for a healthy diet and lifestyle.
Right, back to food first, supplement second, like the source said.
Exactly. Getting your nutrients from whole foods is always the best approach. But the source does acknowledge that there might be some situations where taking a BCAA supplement could be beneficial.
Okay, like what kinds of situations?
Well, for example, athletes who are training at a really high volume, like they're working out super intensely multiple times a day. Or people who have specific dietary restrictions, maybe they're vegan or vegetarian and they're not getting enough BCAAs from their diet alone.
That makes a lot of sense. It really depends on individual needs and goals. But before we jump to any conclusions, let's go back to that fascinating connection between BCAAs and liver health. We were talking about how cirrhosis can really impair liver function, but the source also mentioned that BCAAs might be helpful in managing a complication called hepatic encephalopathy.
Right.
Can we unpack that a bit more?
Absolutely. This is where the research gets really exciting. Remember how we talked about the liver being like a filter that removes toxins from the blood?
Yeah, like a clogged drain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, in hepatic encephalopathy, that filter is basically malfunctioning. So toxins are building up in the blood, and some of those toxins can actually reach the brain.
Oh, wow. And that's what causes the cognitive problems.
Exactly. So how do BCAAs help? Well, they're actually involved in the production of neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals that brain cells use to communicate with each other.
Okay, so BCAAs are like messengers in the brain, helping the neurons talk to each other.
That's a great way to think about it. But here's the thing. When the liver isn't working properly, it can disrupt the balance of those neurotransmitters in the brain, and that contributes to the symptoms of hepatic encephalopathy.
Ah, I see. So supplementing with BCAAs could help restore that balance and improve brain function.
That's the hope. The research is still ongoing, but the early results are really promising. The source mentions a bunch of studies that found that BCAA supplementation actually improved mental clarity, reduced confusion, and even enhanced quality of life for people with hepatic encephalopathy.
That's amazing. It's pretty incredible to think that these amino acids could have such a profound impact on brain health. But I'm guessing there's still a lot we don't know about this, right?
Absolutely. The world of BCAAs is full of exciting possibilities, but it's important to remember that the research is constantly evolving. As we learn more about these fascinating amino acids, we'll get a better understanding of their potential benefits and applications. And, speaking of potential benefits, the source also mentions that BCAAs might play a role in protecting against liver cancer.
Wait, did you say liver cancer? That's a pretty big claim. I'm definitely interested to hear more about that. Yeah, liver cancer is a pretty serious concern, especially for folks who already have cirrhosis.
Definitely.
So how could BCAAs actually protect against it?
Well, scientists are still trying to figure out exactly how it works, but the source points to some pretty interesting studies that found that BCAAs might actually be able to inhibit the growth of cancer cells in the liver.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. And one theory is that it has to do with their ability to regulate certain signaling pathways that are involved in cell growth and proliferation.
So it's not just about helping the liver function better, but potentially preventing things from getting worse.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
pretty remarkable.
It really is, and it just shows how complex these little amino acids actually are. We've come a long way from just thinking of them as muscle builders, right?
We have. The research on BCAAs is really exciting. There's so much more to them than we initially realized, and their potential benefits go way beyond just sports nutrition.
Absolutely. We've covered so much ground today, from muscle growth and recovery to liver health, and even potentially protecting against serious diseases like liver cancer.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of what there is to know about BCAAs.
Me too. And that's what's so cool about science.
Really?
The more we learn, the more questions we have, and it just leads to even more exciting discoveries down the road.
I love that. So for our listeners who want to keep learning, do you have any recommendations for resources they could check out? I know the source we've been talking about today is a great starting point, but where should they go next?
Yeah, there's a ton of great information available online.
Oh, cool.
You can check out research databases like PubMed or websites of reputable health organizations like the National Institutes of Health.
Great suggestions.
And I'd also recommend talking to a registered dietitian or a healthcare professional.
Yeah,
They can give you personalized advice based on your individual needs and goals.
that's great advice. Always a good idea to talk to the experts. Okay, so before we wrap up this awesome deep dive, let's try to boil everything down to a few key takeaways. What are the most important things you want our listeners to remember about BCAAs?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that BCAAs are not just some trendy supplement, they're essential nutrients. They do a lot of important jobs in the body, from helping with muscle metabolism to supporting brain health and liver function. And while we're still learning a lot about BCAAs, the evidence we have so far really suggests that they can play a key role in overall health and well-being.
Totally agree. And even though there are supplements out there, the best way to get your BCAAs is through food.
Absolutely.
Think meat, poultry, fish, dairy, legumes, all those good things.
Right. A healthy, balanced diet is always the foundation.
This has been such an informative deep dive. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired to make sure I'm getting enough protein in my diet.
Me too.
Yeah.
And to keep learning and exploring all the amazing things about nutrition and health.
Well said. All right, folks, until next time, stay curious and keep those minds and bodies fueled for a healthier you.